Another county in the northern part of the Upper Cumberland is Clay County. They share the distinction with Pickett County of sharing their northern border with Kentucky and have a very vibrant history as well. The Clay County Museum offers visitors a chance to step back into that history and learn what made Clay County what it is today.
Clay County Museum is right on the highway in Salina as you come in off of Highway 52 or 53. And the museum came about in 1986. The governor of Tennessee, I believe it was Lamar Alexander, was having each county to do something to show it off. And we decided what we would do is try to create a museum. This is a history museum, so it's going to cover the history of this county. And for people who don't know, this county is one of the latter counties in Tennessee in this area. It wasn't established until 1870. And the reason people came to this area is because of the rivers. The Cumberland River's coming from the north, and the Obie River's coming from the northeast, and they run together right here at Salina. There wasn't any bridges, there wasn't any roads, there wasn't any things, it's horses and walk and whatever. And the Indians came by canoes and ever how they could get here, but the first inhabitants in this area were Indians. The Mississippian Indians were the forerunners of the Cherokee and the Chickasaw and the other Indians that lived in this area. In the latter 1700s, Daniel Boone came through this part of the country. And on his second trip out of Kentucky, his journal says that he crossed the river at the Twin Creeks and spent the night on the Seven Sister Bluffs. Well, they're about 3 miles downriver from where we are right now. A little later, a fellow by the name of Hugh Roberts came in and built the first log home in what would be Salina now. And when they built the new bypass from Highway 53, it goes around town, they took that house and somebody got it before we could get a hold of it. But we do have, out in our pavilion, we saved enough of the logs to make a small little part and have the sign that told about Hugh Roberts. And this was like in, you know, the early 1780s or 90s, somewhere in there. Being on the river, they had the problem of flooding. And the main town of Salina then was down right on the river because the river boats came up, and that's the way they got all the supplies and everything. Even as, you know, in the late 1800s and 1900s, the bridge over the Cumberland River wasn't built till approximately 1935. So the big industry though in this area, and we have a lot of stuff about this, is the timber industry. And they would raft logs up here at the two rivers, and they would raft them all the way to Nashville or down to New Orleans. But when they rafted them, they had to walk back home. And from Salina to Nashville is 200 miles. And they had to walk back home, so you can imagine how it was back in the early days. The artifacts that's in the museum, we've just accumulated over the years. And I became president in 2006, and I got to looking around, and we have a lot of things on the walls and their pictures, and I know what they are, but there's nothing to explain what they are. So we are in the process of revamping and making a timeline museum so you can come in and go through the museum and it'll tell you the story. That's what museums are to do, tell a story. You see things behind me, I know what they are. Some of them I don't know where they came from, so we still have to do some work on getting the history of different things that we'll be using in exhibits, and so that we can tell the story to the best we can. And once we get the timeline done, we are going to have another area to where we have, we've got videos that you can watch about different aspects of this area and different things as far as history. There's a big steam engine sitting out there. Now that steam engine was covered up by the lake. Before they could get the steam engine out, all the roads got closed off, and there it was. But they raised it, took it over to Willow Grove, And they had it on display over there for several years. Well, they didn't have any good place to put it, so we said, we'll build a pavilion if you'll let us have it. So it sits out there, and we've got the story of who owns it and how it came about, and who raised it and everything, but that's unusual. The mistakes we make in our history is what we should look at. If we don't know what the history is, then we're going to make the same mistakes down the line. If we come along and do something and it doesn't work and it won't work, then our history will tell us that. And so the better history we've got to the items that we have and to the people that came through this part of the country, the better and more accurate we can get it. The more likely we are to be able to survive better in the years to come. If you happen to be in Salina, coming in on Highway 52 or 53, the Clay County Museum is less than a block from the intersection. We'll be glad to talk to you or show you anything we've got or help you in any way.